did that. Thank you. We have it.
Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started then, unless anyone on the board wants to wait. Are we good?
I think
I
they're all
think we're
muted, so
good.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you everybody for coming to my presentation tonight and being willing to learn more about our topic, which is supporting children with special needs at home. So we will go through the PowerPoint. My hope is to get through as much as we can tonight and have time for questions at the end. You can also put questions in the chat as we go along. And the good news is that if we happen to run short on time tonight, I've included my contact information at the end of this presentation, and you are welcome to reach out if you have any more questions, if you want clarification on any topics. But again, thank you for being here and for supporting this topic that is very important. So my understanding is that depending on how your Zoom is set up, you can set up so you can see my face and the PowerPoint. So I will defer to you for however you want to get it set up, but we'll go ahead and get started. So our topic is supporting children with special needs at home. In my years of working in education and in meeting with parents at various stages of the special education process, the most common question that I get asked from parents after we are laying out information about their goals and their services and their needs and what supports will be provided at school, the most common question that I have been asked is a version of, well, that's great, but what about at home? What can I do to help my child at home? So we'll go ahead and go through that. So a little bit about me, if you're meeting me for the first time. This is my 20th year working in education. I'm fortunate to be dual licensed in both early childhood and special education. I have worn a few different hats along my journey in education. I spent a year teaching abroad in Taiwan. I spent a few years in the nonprofit program at Head Start, teaching early childhood and special education there. And then since 2012, I've been working in the Canyon School District early childhood program. So that has been my current home. So as I started gathering information for this webinar, I noticed a theme emerging, and it's the differences and similarities between child and adult logic. And tonight we're going to cover behavior scenarios and then strategies to address it, how to build communication with children, how to foster their social development, and addressing their pre-academic skills. So, small people, but with very big feelings. So, imagine with me, if you will, that your child is coming home from school or maybe a play date and they are upset. They are crying, they're having a hard time calming down. And when you inquire about what's going on, you learn that they are upset because they really wanted to be the line leader at school and it was someone else's job today. And um, and so said they're not coming to their birthday party, and their birthday party um, is 10 months away, and keeping that in mind, and and they didn't get something else that they wanted. And as an adult, you might think, really, that is why you were crying? Come on. And if you're thinking that, that's okay. I've been there myself at times, so you're not alone. But reality is that a hard day for a child is still a hard day. So looking at that from an adult perspective, maybe you didn't sleep well, and so you just woke up kind of cranky, and so you think, okay, I'll stop by my bakery on the way to school or work, and I'm gonna get a muffin, and it's just gonna feel better. Oh, and one other thing about the child being upset is that it was juice day at school. It was not milk day, it was a juice day. So, in your mindset as an adult, you're going to stop by the bakery, you are going to get your favorite muffin, and they're sold out. Ugh, okay, but you go on and then you go to work, and then at work you learn that you thought your boss was going to pick you to lead up a new presentation. It's a big deal, and they chose someone else. Ugh. Okay, but you keep going because you're an adult and you have that perspective. So you go on, and then you get a message from your friend, and they are bailing on you for plans after work. And all these things happen, and it's life, but still really hard things and still very real. And as an adult, I imagine if someone was relating the events of that day, I think it would be harder to tell an adult, really, like you were upset about those things, like it is not a big deal. So it is something to keep in mind that even though the reasons for kids having hard days may differ from adults to them, they are still valid and it's still hard. And the reasons why small things can feel really hard to a child, they are still developing a broader perspective. They have very few years of life experience, and they don't have a lot of years to draw on. That is still developing. They have a very concrete sense of time. They think today, maybe yesterday, maybe tomorrow, but very much in the present tense today. I had a child tell me last week that they are going to Disneyland last week, and I thought, so close. Um, yeah. So when a child is just having a hard day and having their big feelings, the first step is to just listen. Just listen and let them talk and pay attention on their eye level. Um, but you also want to set behavior expectations. I feel that our job as adults is not to remove all the obstacles from a child's path all of the time. That's not reality. So, for example, at school, if there's a child that's upset because they want to be the line leader, I'm not going to say to Johnny, well, Johnny, I know that you were the line leader today, but Billy really wants to do it today. So we're going to change that because life for kids and adults is not always going to go the way that we want to. That's life. But what I can do is I can tell Billy, I know you really want to be line leader, and it's not going to be today, but I'm going to write your name on the whiteboard so that you can see it, so that tomorrow you know you will be the line leader. So you want to create those expectations of behavior and reality, but then just give them some extra love in that moment. Kids really just want to be loved. Okay, and saying, don't worry about it, is that effective? I know for me as an adult, it's not always effective because if I am really worried, sometimes I need more than just the words, oh, well, don't worry about it. It's like, but I still am. So here are some of my thoughts on that. Worries can be very real to a child because, as we talked about, they have limited perspective, they have limited thinking. So, what we can do as adults in child's lives is to provide a concrete reason for why a child does not need to worry. I am a believer that when a child is really genuinely anxious, they will continue to worry until they have a reason not to. So, as adults, we can provide them with that concrete reason about why it is going to be okay and why they do not need to worry. So, some of those examples are, for example, they might be worried about mom or dad or the babysitter picking them up on time. What if they forget? What if they're late? So, one thing that you could talk about with your child or a child is to set a timer on your phone and show it to them and show them how it works and just reassure them, or also an alarm, and just reassure them, here's my timer, here's my alarm. This is what's going to help me to not forget to come back. And that can be a concrete reason about why they don't need to worry about it anymore. Another option is that, for example, maybe they are leaving school and they are just really, really worried about the art project that they did not get to finish. and it's hard for them to leave because what if it gets ruined? What if it's not safe? What if it's not here tomorrow? So as adults, one of these ways that we can address it is we can put it aside and make sure that they see us putting it aside so that they know what is going on. And again, it just gives that concrete reason for them to not worry because they can attach their worries to a reason about knowing that it's going to be okay. And another key to helping kids to reduce their nerves and their anxiety is to loop in the other adults, whether it's a teacher or a neighbor or a babysitter, whoever the child is spending time with, to just loop them in and have a brief conversation about how your child is doing and how they are feeling. And then you can let your child know that you talked to this person. And again, it gives that concrete reason that they can release their worry and attach it to knowing,
He's giving a
okay, I know it's
webinar.
going to be okay, and this is why. Okay, and schedules and transitions. So in real estate, they say it's all about location, location, location. And working with children with special needs, it is all about visuals, visuals, visuals. Visuals can really make a difference for kids. You can use visuals for a daily schedule or a routine at home, at school, wherever the child is consistently spending an amount of time. And there are different variations. I brought an example with me tonight, and hopefully you can see it when I'm holding up. So this is an example of what we call a picture schedule, and it has all the different parts of the day from arrival to going home, and the child can just carry this with them throughout the day. It can also be looped on a binder ring that a teacher or child can carry around. The point is that they have access to it throughout the day whenever they need it, and it just is the same every day. And so for example, the child comes and they pick up their schedule, and the first step is arrival. So when the arrival part is done, you take it off and put it in the envelope. So the child knows, okay, that part is done. And then they know that the next part is going to the table for the small group direct instruction. So it just puts their mind at ease and it lets them know what to expect. It lets them know in what order it will be happening. And that consistency just puts their mind at ease and it can aid in making the transitions throughout the day. Again, there are a lot of options for this. The key points are that it is accessible to the child and that it's consistent and that they have buy-in. So whether they are flipping through the cards on the ring or they are taking the pictures off the cards, uh, this is their tool to support them throughout the day. And this is at school, but at home, you can also do this at home. So for example, you might have a picture schedule for the morning routine. So it might say, wake up, and then I take off my uh, pajamas. I get dressed. I eat breakfast. So yeah. So again, this is a very versatile tool to help with transitions and with routine. And transitions and attending to a routine can be hard when the time is to do what we call in this field as a non-preferred activity. So at school, it might be direct instruction. At home, it might be toothbrushing or picking up your toys. Non-preferred just refers to an activity that a child is not super interested in doing. So a picture schedule can help them to go over to anticipate a non-preferred activity And one of my favorite tools for engaging in the non-preferred activities is to use timers. I'm a huge believer of timers. My personal choice is a sand timer. It can be big or small or medium. Um, you can also use an app at home on your phone if that is accessible. And the point in using a timer is that the child needs to be able to see it, uh, um, particularly to see how much time is left. So, for an example, if the adult is using a timer on your phone, that might be effective to mark when it's done. But if the child is not watching the timer go around, if it's just in your pocket, it's going to be less effective because they can't see it and gauge and adjust to, okay, how much time is done. Um, and so a timer can be great for knowing how much time left they have in this non-preferred activity. I find it kind of helps puts kids' mind at ease because in their mind it gives them a concrete and a finite end, and they know that they can move on to something they would prefer to do once the timer's done. And if there's something that they are really, really enthused about, but it needs to come to an end, and you know that they might struggle when it's time to be done because they just love this activity so much, it can also help to give them a transition to prepare them for, okay, it is going to end soon, and then we'll move on to this next. So, like I said, the goal is that they can see the timer in whatever form you are using. And another example of using a visual to help at home is using visuals for how to complete tasks and routine. So, for example, as adults, when we brush our teeth, we probably don't think much about it. We know to we know to go to the bathroom. We pull out our toothbrush. We get we might get our toothbrush wet underwater in the sink. We might open the toothpaste and put toothpaste on it, and then we brush until a timer goes out, and then we spit. So for adults, we have it down, but as kids, that is roughly 5 or 6 steps to manage. So one thing that you can do to make that smoother is to take pictures of a child doing these steps, and then you can print them out and post them in a way that's going to be accessible in your house. And over time, you can fade providing these visuals, but at the start, it just kind of gives kids a checklist for how this process works. It's going to build their confidence in completing those tasks. And as an adult, it's going to be less stressful and less involved for you, and they can take ownership of that process. And just as a side note, if you do not have access to a laminator in your home, I don't. If you wrap it up in packing tape, that is a great solution. So keep, yeah, so keep that in mind. Okay. Um, okay. So like we talked about, there are multiple options for providing visuals. There's no right way, wrong way, one way. The goal is that it works for your child. And auditory cues can also be effective, particularly a song. I know in my classroom, I don't know that anybody in all my years has ever said, "Oh, I love cleanup time. It is the best time. I love to clean up the toys." No, they are not fans. Um, and they definitely need support to prepare for that next step. So, um, every day we have someone whose job it is to use the microphone and announce to the class, okay, we have 5 minutes until cleanup time. And as an adult, we have a pretty good idea of what 5 minutes means, and we can gauge this. But again, for kids um, who are still developing their sense of time, 5 minutes does not always mean much. So every day we play a song. It is one of my one of my favorites. It is the Pachelbel Canon in D, but use what song works best for you. But we play that every day, and then when the music stops, then the kids know, okay, the song's done. That means toys are done, and it is time to clean up. And over time, I would say over the first couple months or so, kids start to kind of pick up on the nuances of the song and how it sounds, and they start to be able to recognize that, oh, yep, they're getting to the last uh, few bars, so that means that we are going to be done playing soon. And they might not still want to clean up, but using the verbal reminder paired with the song and then doing it the same every day, it just gives them that cue to prepare them for the next step. So, songs can be very effective in helping them ease into recognizing those cues and just going on with their day, whether it's at home or at school. So, in using picture schedules and consistent routines. The goal is not that a schedule never changes. That is unrealistic. Within the classroom, our schedule is very consistent, but for example, if it's school picture day, it's going to be a different routine. It just is. And at home, maybe you go outside to play as soon as they get home, and that's great. But if it's a thunderstorm, you won't be able to go outside. It's just not possible. The goal is to not the goal is to not always have the same schedule without fail. It is helping the child learn to make those adjustments when the schedule is going awry and just part of life. So, but the benefit to having a consistent schedule is that the more familiar a child is with a routine or a schedule, then it increases the potential for a successful change. So maybe um, the last time that there was a thunderstorm and you couldn't go outside, they struggled for 10 minutes. But because you have a consistent routine on all the other days and you work through it that time, the next time there is a thunderstorm, maybe they will have a struggle for 7 minutes. So, and there's one visual I forgot to show that I'm also a fan of. This is called a first then chart. Hopefully you can see it. And this is a great tool. Um, so there is space for two pictures or symbols or whatever the child is going to recognize. So, for example, in my classroom, it might be first we clean up and have a picture of them putting toys away, and then maybe they love snacks. So first clean up and then snack. And so again, it gives them a concrete visual. It puts their mind at ease because they know, okay, when I do this, I know that I'm going to get this. So I highly recommend a first then chart. It will take on a different form depending on your child, but the concept is solid. Um, and we want kids to continue to grow and stretch within the scheduled framework. So, for example, at dinner time, they have a hard time sitting at the table. And your goal is to just increase their time being at the table. If they happen to eat all of their dinner, great, but your goal is just that they stay there. So you might start with the timer and you're going to set the timer for 3 minutes. And the goal is the child stays there. If they get up, then you physically guide them back to their chair at the table. And then when the timer's done, then they're done and they know they can go play or do another preferred activity. And you do that for about a month. And then the next week, after that month, then you're going to stretch it to 5 minutes. And a couple of weeks after, you're going to stretch it to 7 minutes. So the goal is to have expectations and just keep growing and stretching while providing them supports within the framework of what they need to get done that day. Okay, so like we talked about, not all children are going to go through schedules and transitions the same way. Children are unique. So that is a given. So you're going to want to consider a child's individual needs. So for example, when it's time to go home or go to the playground, I have some kids who will be over there really fast and they will jump up and they'll grab their backpack and they'll go to the door. They are ready. And I have some who just casually stroll over to their backpack and they get distracted on the way to the door and their backpack is just kind of hanging down and and that is okay too. That is how they are transitioning. But because we want them to stay with the class, then I will make it a point to give them some extra time. So maybe they get an extra minute because I know that they need that support to be successful. So just consider the needs and what they need to be successful throughout the day. And excuse me. Transitioning can be hard. There are things as adults that I don't always want to. I don't always want to clean my house, or I don't always want to go run errands. And so having motivation is a basic human need for both kids and adults. I know when I have to do tasks like paperwork, it is not my favorite. So I am going to want to do it with a background of some music or ATV, and that keeps me in a positive headspace and less, ugh, I don't want to do this. So yes, we all need motivations. However, when we are providing a motivator, such as using the first then chart, we want to be mindful of the stakes being potentially raised for what we're offering as a motivator. So you want to focus on choices within your control that you are comfortable offering to your child. So, for example, it might be um, first we pick up your toys, and then I will give you a fruit snack, and that's great. But the challenge is that the more a child comes to expect that doing A means a fruit snack, then they are likely to say, well, how about five fruit snacks? And then you're kind of up to like 2 packs of fruit snacks a day because they're like, okay, I am raising the stakes, let's go. So you want to offer a choice that is within your control that you want to offer. So for example, maybe they have a hard time leaving the playground to go home. So you could say something like, first we leave the park, and then you can choose a song we listen to in the car on the way home. Or first we um, clean up, and then you can choose one book to read. So just keep them. So just keep the stakes in a way that is not going to keep upping the ante, and that will help you and the child to both be successful. Okay, and here's some ideas for what to do when your child is in the middle of a meltdown. Always the first priority is, are they safe? And yes, they might be doing a scream cry, and it might be just hurting your ears, and it is hard. But are they safe? As adults, we don't need to match their energy level. They are hyped enough for the both of us. So you want to lower your voice as needed and then get down on their level. You want to listen and label their feelings. It sounds like you feel blank because of blank. Or if your child is less non-speaking, then you can also use pictures of feelings to help them feel that sense of validation. You want to label their behavior. So if they are trying to kick you, it is okay to say, that is not safe. You want to restate where you are coming from as needed. So, for example, if a child is upset because we clean up the toys, then I will keep saying calmly and firmly, no, toys are done. No, toys are done. And just keep restating it. And if your child is able, if they have the language skills, ask for ideas to solve the problem. And you want to allow them time to self-calm. If they are maybe trying to hit you or kick you, it is okay to move away and just let them know where you will be when they are calm. Okay. So every behavior is still a means of communication. So when they are really struggling, we want to consider, is there an unmet need? Are they hungry? Are they thirsty? Are they tired? I know as adults, we often use the term of being hangry. Kids get hangry too. Are they seeking your attention? Whether it is positive attention or negative attention. And if I know there's a child who is possibly going to struggle that day for whatever circumstances, then I want to front load them with a lot of attention and support and just build that connection from the moment that they get there at school or from when they wake up. And it can often help me to kind of get over that hump of the negative attention seeking if you have that connection with them from the start. Um, and depending on their behavior, so for example, if they are trying to run away from doing something and they're hiding under the table, um, you want to consider what is it that they are trying to avoid? What is it that they don't want to do? What are they averse to? What is the problem? And you want to prioritize encouragement over praise. The child knows specifically what they did well, and then you can also increase the chance to repeat the behavior that you want to see. So for example, saying good job is great. The child is not really going to know what they did that was so well. However, on the flip side, you could say, you came to sit down the first time I asked, or you could say, you hung up your backpack all by yourself, or just whatever it is that they did that you want to see again. Tell them specifically what they did. Um, and and another option for just helping to improve behavior is to provide choices. So we talked about the struggles of cleanup time. So you could say, okay, we are going to clean up the blocks. Do you want to pick up the red blocks or the blue blocks? Or if having to leave the park to go home, do you want to hop to the car or do you want to spin to the car? But just giving them a choice. I know there are people um, and just in general who like to use the phrase, you can do it by yourself or I will help you. But that's not really a choice. That is a consequence. It is basically saying, well, I'm not lifting a finger to help you. So either you help or you're doing it on your own. So just offering a choice and again, that is within the bounds that you are comfortable with. So so for example, if it is not a choice that they clean up and then they get a cookie, then you're not going to offer that because that's not a choice that you want to make or offer. Okay, so preparing your child for doing something new, whether it's a doctor or a dentist or play date or just someone who is new in their life. If possible, you want to visit ahead of time. You can look up and see if there are any pictures online and just talk through the process and discuss behavior expectations. So again, the behavior that you want to see. So for example, we are going to walk in and we're going to sit down. And one of those ways to do that is through creating a social story. I don't have time to talk about that right now, but you can message me later and I can tell you about that. And you want to consider what we call in my line of work a predictable failure. So for example, if you know the child loves the color blue, and if you are passing out crayons, and if they don't get blue, then they could possibly have a meltdown. So if so, then what is the plan to navigate that? Okay, so child safety and behavior. Um, Focus on the behavior that you want to see. This is not what is called gentle parenting that gets a lot of shade on the internet. It is providing clear expectations. So if you say to a child, no hitting your sister or stop pushing your brother, the last thing that they are going to hear is hitting this person or pushing this person. Yeah, so consider using safe hands. And really the focus is what do you want the child to hear and what do you want the child to do as a result of the instruction. So for example, I know that a lot of schools and organizations talk about hands and feet to yourself. And for me, I think hands and feet to yourself sounds confusing for a child. So I tell them hands and or feet on your body because I feel like on your body is more a relatable instruction than saying to yourself. Okay, and sharing is not demanding. Um, I think sometimes this gets misconstrued because sharing is a great skill, but sharing does not mean that that kids ask and then they give it because someone asked and even when they asked nicely, because sometimes kids just are not ready to be done. So you want to focus on problem solving because problem solving is just as caring as sharing. So for some examples of how you could solve a problem when a child is wanting the same thing that someone else has, you can take turns uh, using a timer. You can find an identical or a similar item. They can use it together, or they can wait for the child to be done, and then you can talk about what can be done in the meantime. And these steps can take a long time to work through, but it needs to work for both kids. So just stay the course because, yes, it is caring to share. But sharing does not mean giving up just because you asked. Okay. And and with kids, it is common to teach them to say I'm sorry. And again, this is a great skill. Um, but what saying I'm sorry looks different for adults than for kids. So, for example, if a child kicks over someone's block tower and they say, "Oh, I'm sorry," but then they do it again 5 minutes later, they're probably not getting the concept of what I'm sorry means. And so you want to focus on labeling and identifying feelings, whether it is with pictures or photos or a book about feelings. And so, for example, if the child whose bot tower got knocked over, they are crying, then you might say, "Oh, look at Billy's face. He's sad. Yeah, he is crying and he has tears because the blocks got knocked down." And the goal is not to help a child feel shame um, uh, because of actions. You want them to just make that connection. So until they are able to grasp the concept of sorry, then we want to focus on how can we fix their problem. So, for example, does a child want a hug? Do they want help to rebuild the block tower? But I like to hold off on having I'm sorry as an expectation until they are able to label feelings and make those connections. Okay, building communication. For a child with special needs, communicating effectively can be hard. And speaking as someone who had experience of receiving speech services and communicating in a way where I could be understood, it really is hard. It is not a matter of desire or effort of, oh, if they really wanted to, I know that they could say this or they could do this. So because of that, we want to avoid using communication as an incentive or a consequence. So, for example, um, uh, withholding a toy car until they say car, because the goal is to increase confidence and communication. I know as an adult, if I'm trying and I'm working, and it is just not working out for me, then at some point I might think, is this really worth it? So we want to work with kids in a way that is going to encourage them to keep trying to communicate with the people in their lives. Um, and non-speaking communication is still communication. So if they are pointing, if they are grunting, if they are grabbing your hand and pulling you, that is still communication. And also, using visuals is a great tool to build that gap, to have pictures of things that they want or need that they can show you. Okay. So when a child is trying to communicate, but you're just not understanding them, here are some things to keep in mind. The child knows what they are trying to say. They know their message. So you want to reassure them. You want to get down on their level and keep your voice calm and express to them that you are listening and they do have time to express what they want to say. And if you are just still not understanding, then invite them to show you what they need or want. But the goal is to just reassure them that it's okay, you're listening, and they have time. Okay, so if you want to expand communication, you want to provide modeling and correction without essentially saying you are saying it wrong, because that is not going to build their motivation to keep trying. So for example, if a child says, I saw a spider today, or I saw a spider, and you know that the word is spider, um, rather than saying, oh, spider, say spider, you might say, oh, you saw a spider. Or if they're saying, I want a cookie, then you might say, oh, you want a cookie. And just emphasize what you want them to say, and then just go on and just keep providing that model for them. And another way to grow language is to just narrate your day for the child. So, for example, if you are making cookies, then you might say, okay, first I'm going to break the eggs. Okay, I'm getting a spoon. Now I'm mixing. And it might feel weird and silly at first, but the more language rich environment you provide, the more likely they are to pick up on it and to kind of um, save those words for future use. Okay. Building blocks for social development. You want to meet the child where they are at. Some kids are just not content yet to have meaningful friendships. Some kids are just okay to just play on their own, and that's okay. It's not wrong. It's just where they are at. Um, and but some building block steps to get them to the point where they are going to play with other kids is you want to begin with your child tolerating peers or adults at home in their space. Because if a child cannot handle people being next to them, then play is going to be really hard. So just focus on sharing that space. And like I said, that is still building a foundational skill. And if your child does not have a lot of play opportunities outside the home, that's okay. And adults can still play and engage and model and all those great things. Uh, So the next step after tolerating space is that you want to move on to using similar materials next to each other. So that is parallel play. So for example, maybe you are both building with blocks and there's some space between you, but you're in the same general area and you are both using blocks to build. And then the next step after that is cooperative play. So that's play scenarios. So they are playing house and there's a pet and a baby and a mom, or playing games with rules like hide and seek or playing a matching game. And as adults, it's just good to keep in mind that you want to be aware of the language used by adults regarding other children. So essentially, you want to be mindful of how you are talking about other kids when other kids are there. You want to keep it positive. Okay. Social development. We are not all friends. I know there are those who feel differently, and that's okay. For me, for my personal choice, I choose not to say we are all friends or call my students my friends because as adults, I don't want to be friends with everybody that I meet. I mean, sure, I might like them. Well, I hope I do. But I'm not going to invite them home to my house to play just because we happen to have a similar connection. But I do teach about being kind. So I model kind words and I encourage the kids in my class to use them. And we also teach them to say a variation of, I just need some space. Kids need space, and that's okay. Not all kids are meant to be friends, and that's okay too. So if a child really does want friends and to build that social interaction, a great step is to draw other kids to them. So, for example, if there is a new game that other kids can play and that's simple, or if there's a floor puzzle, then you are going to pair that child with an adult, and then you're going to invite other kids to come play with them, and then eventually fade that support over time and days as the child is feeling more comfortable and is developing those skills. But for a kid who is wanting to make friends but just having a hard time making that first step, then draw other kids to them. Okay, pre-academic skills. You want to consider the developmental stages for your child's learning. So, if a child is reading books at age 4, great, that is fantastic. But it's not expected that they will read books by themselves at age 4. So, just celebrate and support where they are at and at the level that they are at. Okay, and so providing materials at home to develop these skills. You want to provide a range of materials that are fun and engaging. So, for example, writing with a giant ballpoint pen is a lot more fun than writing with a small adult-sized ballpoint pen. And you do not need to break the bank to buy new materials. Dollar Tree is great for buying things you want to use to build these skills. And you want to make the materials real, the same materials that adults use. So things like real note cards, real note paper, real envelopes, and kids love labels because they love to label stuff. So those are always a hit. And you want to consider expectations for using the materials at home. So if you do want to practice their writing and their letter recognition, um, and you want to do it with a shaving cream, then you want to let them know that you are going to practice writing first, so they don't see the shaving cream and think, "Cool, I'm going to paint my arms." So just let them know the goals and what the plan is for using those materials before you start. And then make the learning meaningful and relevant. Practicing name writing is a crucial skill. It's great, but if you're asking a child to just sit down and write their name just for practice, they might not want to. But it might be more meaningful if they drew a picture and you say, "Great, let's practice your name so that we know that you made this picture." Or if you want to practice counting, have them help you set the table and count out how many plates that you need. So, oh, 4 people, we need 4 plates. 1, 2, 3, 4. And just make it part of the routine so that it's meaningful and it's more motivating to the child. Okay, and you want to involve your child in the day. So if you are going for a walk or a drive, look for a letter, a number, a color, and make it a game to see who can find it first. If you're working on a shopping list, talk about what's on the list. So, oh, we are buying bananas. B for bananas. Bananas. And like we talked about, you can verbally model what you are doing, such as you are making something. And when reading books, I like to focus less on the words and more about the plot and talk about what is happening in the pictures. And then what do they see? What do they think is going to happen next? And then you want to model basic concept words um, that are language building blocks for kids. So things like in, out, on, over, under, full, bumpy, smooth. So for example, if you were doing Play-Doh, then you can talk about if it's smooth or if it's bumpy. Or if you're playing hide and seek, oh, you were hiding behind the couch. Oh, you were hiding under the table. Okay. Here are some games and activities to play home to help to build these skills. Playing hide and seek is great. I also recommend using a camera to take pictures so you can go back and refer and say, oh, look at this. You were hiding in this space. A scavenger hunt for a shape or color or a letter. And hiding question and answer games such as who took the cookie from the cookie jar. Drawing and painting with water outside is always the fun one. And doing color mixing with shaving cream and primary colors. And you can talk about those colors, but also the new colors that they made. Oh, you made green. Let's talk about how you made green. Okay. Thank you for your support, and my email is there. Feel free to use it to reach out, and I'm gonna stop sharing so I can. Okay, yes, I can see my face now. This is great. Okay. Um, Thank you everyone for coming. Are there any questions before we wrap up? Oh, let's see, chat. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you everyone for coming. And we have a few minutes for questions if anyone wants to add to it.
Heather, was that the right song? Did I have that right?
Yep. And the song I have, it happens to be exactly 5 minutes long, so it's perfect. And I will send you the link.
Perfect.
You would like. So yes, I just recommend it because again, it just provides that cue. And to be honest, at this point in the year, I sometimes think I hear it in my like nerves, like, oh, again, but it is so effective because they know and they can come to expect it. So yes, yeah, thanks for asking. Anyone else? Okay, see, I think there's something in the chat. Okay. Um, okay. Do they act out once they hear the end of the song? I would say sometimes, but really most of the time, no. I mean, aside from the usual, I don't want to clean up. But but by this point in the year, they just come to know, and they might not want to do it, but they know to come to expect it. And then when they do, one thing I found to be really effective is to say, "Oh, I wonder." So, for example, we go outside next, and so I will say, "Oh, I wonder if you want to go outside or if you want to stay inside with me." And everybody's, "Oh, no, 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 I want to go outside. I want to clean up." So just saying, "Oh, I wonder if you want to do this." And also I like to also model what I want them to do. For example, when we came back from spring break, they were not a fan of cleaning up, and I saw a lot of just kind of walking and walking and walking. And so one day I modeled and I was like, "Okay, guys, this is walking. That is not cleaning." And then I got some toys and I walked over and I put them away and I said, "Okay, this is cleaning and that's walking." So just kind of providing a visual uh, model as well of what you want to see. And also kids love to see you being silly, and they will usually buy in because it's very entertaining for them to see adults acting silly or to see adults who are not listening. So yeah, thanks for that question, Kathy. Anyone else? Okay, yes. So so like it's not designed to be a consequence. So like I don't say, "Well, if you don't clean up, then we're not going outside," but just saying, "Oh, I wonder if this is really what you want to do." So it kind of set expectation, but it puts a positive spin on it. And it just kind of helps to give them that reset of, "Oh no, 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 I do want to do this." So anyway, okay, and thank you, Courtney, and I think our time is about up. So thanks everyone for being here tonight and for your support. It means a lot to me. Those I know and those I don't. Thank you to everyone just for being here and for your support. And feel free to follow up if you have any questions. And Deanna, do you want to add anything before we finish up? Or anyone else from the board?
Thank you very much. I don't have
Yeah,
anything to add. Great information, but thank you so much.
I was going to say the same thing. I just couldn't find my unmute. But
Okay.
it's so much really good and positive information the way you did that presentation. I think a lot of it can be used with older kids, maybe
That
even,
is the hope.
and even adults sometimes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I talked about at the beginning, a theme kind of developed of like, okay, kids and adults, we often want to do the same things, but but as adults, it is considered socially inappropriate at times, but we do have the same thoughts and needs and feelings. We're not really all that different when you think about it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Good night. Thank
Beautiful
you.
job.
Thank you.